Welcome to Today in Nerd History.
The Incredible Shrinking Woman was released January 30th, 1981. In this movie, a housewife grows smaller and smaller in reaction to chemicals found in cosmetics and household products. This movie stars Lily Tomlin, Charles Grodin, Ned Beatty, and John Glover. The Star Trek The Next Generation episode 11001001 aired January 30th, 1988. In this episode, the Enterprise docks at a starbase for repairs, where it is commandeered by a race of technologically linked aliens intent on using the vessel for their own purposes. The Star Trek The Next Generation episode Unnatural Selection aired January 30th, 1989. In this episode, enhanced DNA developments trigger an epidemic of rapid aging. Caught among its victims is Dr. Pulaski. The Star Trek The Next Generation episode Aquiel aired January 30th, 1993. In this episode, murderous intrigue abounds for the Enterprise when one of the crew aboard a subspace station is believed dead, until the Klingons show up with the young lieutenant, to Geordi's taste. The Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode, Armageddon Game, aired January 30th, 1994. In this episode, Chief O'Brien, who still doesn't particularly like Dr. Bashir, must rely on him when the two are stranded on a planet and O'Brien is infected with a deadly, fast-moving disease. The Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode, Life Support, aired January 30th, 1995. In this episode, Dr. Bashir must use extraordinary measures to prolong Vedic Burrell's life long enough to allow him to complete sensitive peace negotiations between the Bajorans and the Cardassians. The Star Trek Voyager episode, Time and Again, aired January 30th, 1995. In this episode, Captain Janeway and Lieutenant Paris are transported back in time by a subspace fracture just before an explosion ends all life on a doomed planet. The Star Trek Enterprise episode, Sleeping Dogs, aired January 30th, 2002. In this episode, T'Pol, Hoshi, and Reed become stranded aboard a disabled Klingon vessel after they are ambushed by a female Klingon. The Star Trek Picard episode, Maps and Legends, premiered January 30th, 2020. In this episode, Picard begins investigating the mystery of Daj, as well as what her very existence means to the Federation. Without Starfleet support, Picard is left leaning on others for help, including Dr. Agnes Jurati and an estranged former colleague, Rafi Musiker. Meanwhile, hidden enemies are also interested in where Picard's search for the truth about Daj will lead. Remembering Franklin D. Roosevelt. born January 30th, 1882, and passed away April 12th, 1945. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, often referred to by his initials FDR, was an American politician who served as the 32nd President of the United States from 1933 until his death in 1945. Happy birthday, Phil Collins. Born January 30th, 1951. Philip David Charles Collins is an English drummer, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, record producer, and actor. He was the drummer and then the singer of the rock band Genesis, and is also a solo artist. Happy birthday, Gene Hackman. Born January 30th, 1930. Eugene Allen Hackman is a retired American actor and novelist. In a career that spanned more than 6 decades, he won 2 Academy Awards, 4 Golden Globes, 1 Screen Actors Guild Award, and 2 BAFTAs. Nominated for 5 Academy Awards, he won Best Actor for his role as Jimmy Popeye Doyle in The French Connection, and Best Supporting Actor is Little Bill Daggett in Unforgiven. His other nominations for Best Supporting Actor came with the films Bonnie and Clyde and I Never Sang for My Father, with a second Best Actor nomination for Mississippi Burning. His other major film roles included The Poseidon Adventure, The Conversation, French Connection 2, Superman the Movie, Hoosiers, The Firm, Crimson Tide, Enemy of the State, Ants, The Replacements, Behind Enemy Lines, The Royal Tenenbaums, and Welcome to Mooseport. Remembering David Opatoshu, born January 30th, 1918, and passed away April 30th, 1996. David Opatoshu, born David Opatosky, was the actor who played Anan 7 in the Star Trek episode A Taste of Armageddon. He enjoyed a career that spanned 5 decades, almost 100 TV guest appearances, and 45 movie and TV roles. His Semitic features and knowledge of the Yiddish language led to frequent roles as Jewish or Arabic characters. Well-known roles include Menachem Begin in Raid on Entebbe, and one of the lead characters in 1980s miniseries about the Roman siege of Masada. Prior to his Trek appearance, he co-starred with James Doohan in an episode of The Twilight Zone titled Valley of the Shadow, and was also later in an episode of The Time Tunnel, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, and an episode of Fantasy Island. He also had a small role in the Oscar-winning 1958 film The Brothers Karamazov. Happy birthday, Daphne Ashbrook. Born January 30th, 1963. Daphne Lee Ashbrook is the actor who played Melora Paslar in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode Melora. Her big screen debut came in 1984 when she was cast as Phoebe Willis in the cheerleading comedy film Gimme an F. She is perhaps better known as the 8th Doctor's companion, Dr. Grace Holloway, in the 1996 TV movie Doctor Who. She is one of the few actors to have speaking roles in both Star Trek and the Doctor Who franchise, appearing in the 1996 Doctor Who TV movie. Until 2011, she was the only woman to do so. Prior to Deep Space Nine, she had guest roles in the TV shows Knight Rider, Fame, The A-Team, and Murder, She Wrote. After playing Melora, she appeared in 2 episodes of Sisters and 1 episode of Diagnosis Murder. She also played different characters in 2 further episodes of Murder, She Wrote. Between 1995 and 1998, she had a reoccurring role as Annie Pendry on JAG. She later starred in Profiler, Cupid, and Judging Amy, and the reoccurring role again of Dawn Atwood in The O.C. In 2005, she starred in Crossing Jordan and CSI Crime Scene Investigation, before going on to appear in Cold Case, Ghost Whisperer, and Without a Trace. She played Jodie Morris in the 2010 Law and Order Los Angeles episode, Playa Vista, and Donna Payton in the NCIS episode, Out of the Frying Pan. She also appeared in several TV movies, including Brothers-in-Law, That Secret Sunday, Carly's Web, and 14 Going on 30, Lonogram, Rock Hudson, Daughters of Privilege, Intruders, Dead Man's Revenge, and The Love Letter. She has starred in the movies Quiet Cool, Sunset Heat, Automatic, Dumbarton Bridge, Delilah's Song, and was seen in The Lodger. Aside from her acting career, she also enjoys singing. In November 2010, she released her first album entitled Grace Notes, featuring covers of her favorite songs by Joni Mitchell, Sean Colvin, and Patty Griffin, among others. Happy birthday, Valene Kane, born January 30th, 1987. She is best known for playing Rose Stagg, the ex-girlfriend of serial killer Paul Spector, in The Fall, and for her role as Lyra Erso in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. She is also known for her role in 13. Happy birthday, Sheldon Collins, born January 30th, 1955. Sheldon Collins, born Sheldon S. Gollum, played a tough kid in the Star Trek episode A Piece of the Action. He had a reoccurring role as Arnold Bailey on the TV series The Andy Griffith Show, and appeared in the 1966 film The Russians Are Coming. He also appeared in an episode of The Time Tunnel, where he played the young version of James Darren's character. Happy birthday, Jean-Paul Vignon, born January 30th, 1935. He played Edward, the French waiter, in the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, We'll Always Have Paris. Happy birthday, Abdullah II, born January 30th, 1962. Abdullah II bin al-Hussein has been King of Jordan since 1999, upon the death of his father, King Hussein. An acknowledged fan of Star Trek, King Abdullah, then Prince, appeared as an uncredited extra in the 1996 Star Trek Voyager episode, Investigations. He appears in the episode's opening scene as a science officer who speaks with Harry Kim as the scene fades in. Happy birthday, Jerry Sroka, born January 30th, 1946. He played the Talaxian Laxeth in the Star Trek Voyager episode, Investigations.
Well, that's it for today, folks. I appreciate you listening, and if you enjoyed the show, please feel free to tell your friends about little old me here. Have a wonderful day.